Welcome, OWL family, and thank you for joining us tonight for this Campus Conversations with the OWL. I would like to introduce our editor-in-chief of the OWL newspaper, Chandler Crawford.
Hello, thanks Nina for introducing me. Hello everyone. Again, thank you Delegate Ivy for coming to speak. Want to start by thanking you and also by thanking the OWL newspaper staff for their hard work that brought this event into fruition. We've overcome many obstacles that brought us to this point. What drives us is what we've recently coined as our motto, be the voice. Though this simple phrase can be interpreted in countless ways, it has a simple meaning to us. What it means to us is giving our pen to the public as we write out their stories. As Finley Peter Dune once quoted, the job of the newspaper is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, a principle near and dear to my heart as an aspiring nurse. This event started as an idea we discussed through club meetings. We were seeking ways to engage our peers, not just to get more readership for our monthly issues, but to encourage them to take an active part in the world around them. The idea came at no better a time than now, following a high-stakes election and amidst the global pandemic. While this event is not in the format as we planned, this is still an opportunity for staff and students alike to let their voice be heard. Your apprehensions, your questions, your concerns, let them be heard. We are the ear that hears and the voice that speaks for you. So we're going to have Mr. Gray, our advisor, give a few words.
Thank you, Chandler. On behalf of the OWL newspaper and the staff and administration of Prince George's Community College, we want to take this time to thank our officials for joining us, particularly Delegate Julian Ivy. To watch the energy and the passion that these ladies and the rest of the staff put into this event is something that warms my heart, and to see that they're really taking a true interest in the political process and being voices is something that has to be appreciated. So if there's one thing that I hope you do take away from this event is to be active and let your voice be heard, because the only bad voice, quite frankly, is no voice. And you do have a voice. You have a voice with your vote. You have a voice with your passion. And you have your voice by gaining knowledge so that you can speak and spread the message. And you'll learn a great deal from the people who are on our panel this evening. So now we'll turn it over to Nina Madden, who will be your host, and she will introduce our guest.
Once again, my name is Nina Madden, and I serve as copy editor for the Fall 2020 newspaper. Tonight we have State Delegate Julian Ivy. Ivy is a lifelong resident of Prince George's County and a proud representative of District 47. Ivy is an active advocate for workers' rights and social safety, especially in Prince George's County. He was unanimously elected vice chair of the Prince George's County House delegation and the first African American to represent the 2nd Ward of Cheverly on his town council. And he's only 25 years old. Without further ado, please welcome Julian Ivy.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really do want to shout out the whole entire organization. The work that you all do is really impressive. So Nina, thank you for having me on. Mr. Gray, thank you so much for all that you do. And Chandler, hello, nice to see you again.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your background and what kind of sparked your interest into getting into politics?
Sure. I started really focusing on how I could use my voice and how it could shape the world around me when I was in college. Actually, my freshman year, on the first day when I was going to the University of Maryland, 4 state troopers stopped me and they surrounded me with their hands on their weapons, et cetera, et cetera. They said I fit a description. Luckily, I was unscathed. The only thing that they did was stop me because I'm Black, which is unfortunate, but I wasn't beaten, things of that nature. But there were some students around me who really encouraged me to use my voice and to take part in some of the organizing that they've already been doing. And really just from there, I saw that my one voice, even as a freshman in college, was powerful, and it could be used to help people. So my town of Cheverly, there was one of my neighbors actually asked me to come and do something about some of the issues that we had in our town when dealing with our police department specifically. And I did come back, and I started realizing that it's great to have a voice and to use it on campus as a college student, but even more powerful in my life would be to go back to my hometown to make some change there. So as the youngest representative at the time, I got elected at 21.
Oh,
Yeah, we worked quickly to really change the culture in Cheverly surrounding our police department specifically. We also passed some legislation to make it a more inclusive town, to provide sanctuary city status in our town, to make sure that our police weren't working with ICE for immigration matters. And so we had some really significant things that we sought out to achieve. We got a good number of them done, but very quickly, I also realized that there was an opportunity to run for state delegate, and I pursued that one as well. Mind you, I'm still taking classes all at the same time. So, really just, I guess to sum it up, I've been an individual who, just has a voice and hasn't been afraid to use it. Some people would wish I talk a little less, but I'm not going to do that.
so why don't you just go a little bit more in depth of your position or your role as state delegate?
Absolutely. Yeah, so as a member of the General Assembly, by law, we're required to pass a budget every year. And so that's one thing that we do, but we also do so many other things like pass state laws, which really do impact your life on a daily basis, my life on a daily basis, from anywhere from, what the speed limit can be as a maximum, all the way down to if we have enabling legislation to allow for property tax credits to go out to family members who've lived in Prince George's County for X number of years. There are things that we can do from the state level that I've just learned over this short period of time. And really, it makes an impact on so many people's lives. What is it, 6 million Marylanders here in the state. And what I realize is there's so much opportunity for us to do so many great things from the state level. Sometimes we just don't have enough people using their collective voice. And over this summer, I've really found, that position for myself, the position that I play in my body, in the General Assembly, to really make sure that the progressives are vocal about what working families need in the state of Maryland, that it's very clear that we're willing to go to the mat for the people if need be. So passing legislation, that's what we do. Passing the budget constitutionally, that's something that we absolutely have to do. Technically, we're in session for a 90-day session. We are a part-time citizen legislature here in the Maryland General Assembly. Other states like California, their state legislature is a year-round state legislature. New York, they have much more time where they're legislating, and Michigan as well. But here in the state of Maryland, we only have a 3-month-long session, essentially. And I think that that's to the detriment of the people of Maryland. It's something that I'm working on changing as well.
So you talked a little bit about the state budget and how you guys as a collective just contribute to where these funds are distributed to. So as far as the education system and the Hogan lockbox, what are your thoughts about that, and how can you put it in simpler terms, just of understanding?
Right. So here in the state of Maryland, our governor actually has more authority over the budget than any other governor. And I put in a piece of legislation my freshman year in 2019 that would take much of that authority away from the governor and give it to the legislature, as is typical in most states and most legislatures. So that bill actually was question 1 on the ballot this year. And so that change is going to take effect in 2023. It'll allow for members of the General Assembly like myself to have more input over the budget itself, to be able to say, hey, I know that Prince George's Community College They have this wonderful newspaper organization, but they just need a little bit of assistance from the state to, expand here or to bring in new staff here. And we'd be able to actually get that in the budget and make it a priority from the county perspective and be able to advocate more effectively for you. Right now, many of these opportunities have to be approved by the governor. He can very easily say he's not going to release different funds, but thankfully the voters approved the change, the constitutional change amendment that will be in effect in 2023 specifically.
So as far as educational funding is considered, is there an idea or a proposition of defunding the police department in that process and putting those funds towards educational funding?
So that conversation is taking place. And I think that it's a real good faith effort to look into ways that we can streamline our public safety efforts. I think if you look at the crime rate and the rate of crimes that are actually solved, you look and you see that there's a disconnect there between us spending money on public safety and us actually achieving public safety. And so it is very important that we recalibrate, that we reassess our priorities, because it's been said before that our budgets are moral documents, and I believe that. And I don't believe that we should be investing more in our police. In certain jurisdictions, we are investing over $500 million in our policing. And so I just know that our public schools across the state need so much more money. The state, we did just pass the blueprint for Maryland's future. It's going to be a $4 billion increase in education funding in 10 years. But nonetheless, even with that being said, there's still more that our schools will need. And if that could come from our law enforcement budgets, while keeping a level where we can still have public safety here in the state of Maryland and we're not losing quality of life, then I think it's certainly something we should be looking at.
I think one issue that is substantial just in the campus community is the idea of student loan forgiveness.
Absolutely.
And state legislature, it has a lot of say-so. So what is their say-so regarding that matter?
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we do have some assistance in place. I have a piece of legislation that is going to exponentially increase the amount of student debt forgiveness that we allow here in the state of Maryland. And it's because we just know that individuals are turning down seeking higher education because they don't want to take on the debt. Some individuals are just taking on so much debt, they're not able to get a home, things of that nature. It's very clear that we need to do away with this. And the reality is, again, the budget is a moral document. In this upcoming session, we're going to pass a nearly $50 billion budget. And in that budget, we could eliminate much of the student debt that we do have here in the state of Maryland. The question is whether or not we're going to prioritize that or not. So it is something that I'm going to be working on, specifically raising my voice on. But again, it's not a new issue. The levers have always been right there in the hands of our state legislature. They just haven't taken the keys and turned the ignition and actually sent that money back. I think the federal government sending a stimulus check, I know people are waiting on another, and we could talk for hours and hours about that. But the American people as a whole have been forever changed by receiving a $1,000 check from their federal government. I think that they're going to be demanding more from their politicians as we move forward.
What do you think some local issues that future healthcare professionals should become aware of or participate in?
Well, here's an awesome time for me to just plug my bill, please. I will put it in the chat, I'll get it to you, but there's legislation that we are pushing this year that would increase the cap on how much student debt can be forgiven from $5,000 up to $20,000. So it's a significant change. It wouldn't clear everyone's student debt, of course, but it would be very helpful for individuals who meet those qualifications. And so it's not going to end all student debt. It won't eliminate all of it. That's something that the federal government should really consider, though. But here in the state of Maryland, when we do have to prioritize, it's my belief that we should assist individuals who need the assistance.
How about public health funding, CDC funding? According to some research, they have over $11 billion in research, but it's still deemed not enough. And this contributes just to the research and, the resources that we have to combat the coronavirus. So what kind of funding or how much funding do you believe would be necessary to really get a hold of this virus?
I think that funding can come, quite frankly, from places that you wouldn't really expect. We can solve the student debt conversation on the federal level. Coronavirus dollars, quite frankly, there's never going to be enough. I'm really sorry to say it that way, but we're going to be in a recession for the next 10 years is really what they're saying. That's unfortunate because we just got out of a recession a handful of years ago. And so the coronavirus pandemic, this is going to devastate Americans just for generations, really. And if you look at young people specifically, it was hard to get a job before coronavirus hit. And now it's like, you graduated from college and, everyone is still trying to get a job. There are people who've had jobs for decades and now they're out of work looking to get the same job that you're looking to get. And so there's no shortage of need in this crisis. The question is how willing is the federal government to actually help the people of the United States of America?
If the state is returning back to phase one, how can we really entertain the idea of campus reopening?
Yeah, I don't think that we should be returning to classes in person. I know that there are ways that theoretically it can be done safely, but I don't think that there's any reason to put people at that risk right now. It's really unfortunate, but Zoom has proven to be an effective medium for us to be able to have meetings and conversations just like this one. And I think that we should embrace that because I know that life is very unorthodox right now. I'm not going to be able to go see my grandma for Thanksgiving, probably for Christmas either, but I want to be able to see her next year for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so I think, everyone should really not take this seriously. We should. That every person you interact with is somebody's family member. Somebody has love in their heart for them and they just want to see them next Thanksgiving and next Christmas as well. So I know it's tough for all the institutions, but please hold off. Please allow people to stay home so that we can all come together and be there when it's safe again.
Would you agree that 2020 has absolutely been a year of just roller coaster, good and bad emotions, good and bad news? What are some challenges that you guys face with other radical opposition groups, QAnon, just the white supremacies, some radicalist views, the symbolism of patriotism, just the American flag? It's used also as a, just a symbol of hate, so to say, of supremacy. So what are some challenges that you face with that?
I guess as an elected official, there are always going to be people who say nasty stuff to you. And so I've experienced that, sure. But in the state legislature here in the state of Maryland, they don't have any sway legislatively. We have super majorities in both chambers. The Democrats, whatever we want to do, as long as we can agree on it, consider it done. So, for these extreme organizations, they know their place. They know not to show up if they're really trying to get anything done. We've seen mass protests and demonstrations, things of that nature, but they know that they're not about to get anything done here in the state of Maryland. They can take that to some other state. Yeah. No, we're serious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to address and unpack some of the concerns of the student body. I want to thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge, your support for our community, and for providing a general piece of understanding. We would also like to thank the Office of Student Engagement and Leadership for supporting and approving this event for our community. Special thanks to Ms. McIntosh, Dr. Foreman, and Dr. Stimpson for steering us in the right direction to make this event possible. And finally, thank you to our OWL newspaper staff, Thomas, Anika, Chandler, Natasha, and Mr. Gray, for making this idea into a reality. So what did you think?
I thought it went really well. I think it came together really well. I was glad that Delegate Ivy came and he talked. He's a wealth of knowledge. And I think that you did really well with making it a conversation. Just thinking about like if I were to do it, if you weren't here and I had to pull it off, I don't think I could have. It was a lot the interview was really dense with a lot of knowledge, a lot of substance, but it was all done in a matter of close to 30 minutes. So I think you did a really good job with managing the conversation and making it something that somebody can get. Yeah.
So much. Truthfully, it was a little nerve-wracking, but like I was talking to a superstar. But again, it was very, informational, very just useful. A lot of the things I didn't understand before this, and I'm glad to just have got that opportunity to have that conversation with him and, really get that information just poured into me. So it was a great experience. I want to thank you because I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. Seriously. So thank you so much for just being that anchor for me. Yep.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what we do. We're the OWL family around here, so we want everybody else to get involved. So if you got any ideas and thoughts and ways that you want to contribute, frankly, this is how we're going to get down henceforth and forevermore. And who knows, one of you that's watching could be the next Nina Madden one day. Who knows, we may be watching Nina on TV doing it big one day. So dreams begin, I guess, at Pgcc, and that was pretty cool. But Chandler's right, Nina. I did think that it was a great conversational tone. And one thing about it is, it should get everybody an idea that you're never too young to get involved in the process.
Yep.
25 years old and a state delegate. I mean, that speaks for itself. I mean, you learn a lot because you had a lot of substantive questions, and he did prove to be a wealth of knowledge. So, ladies, job well done.
Wait.
What?
Mr. Gray, we have thank you as well. We're giving out thank yous for pushing us along, for seeing past all of the things that, blocked us from having the event the way we wanted it to, just guiding us and
supporting us,
encouraging us, and then getting Delegate Ivy. It was you who reached out and who brought him here. So thank you.
Well, cool. So don't go anywhere. We're gonna tee it up because the midterm elections are very, very important, and everybody does have tendency to get caught up in just the presidential elections, but for your generation in particular. And if I can plug the advisor's advice for this month, which is on the OWL, it talks about how all politics is local. Now you understand why you have to understand what's going on in your neighborhood, because it directly impacts your life a lot more than the stuff in many instances that's being argued upon on Capitol Hill. So you just got to be mindful of that, and tell your friends, it's your world now. We're looking to pass the baton. It's okay. You guys are ready, you armed, you got knowledge, you got technology, and Lord knows you've had a lot of technology that you had to deal with over the past few months because of the pandemic while you're getting your or continuing your education. So it's a great deal. I'm glad I can help you along the way.
Stay tuned for the November-December issue. You can find that issue plus previous issues by logging into my Pgcc or also on the Pgcc homepage, and you can look for the owl icon. Click on there and it'll take you to the PDF.
Please don't forget, we will be looking for staff members to join us for the spring 2021 semester. So check out the OWL, and by all means, if you are interested, drop us a line at pgccowl@gmail.com. That's pgccowl@gmail.com. Always a pleasure working with you guys.